Today for our read aloud, we are starting a brand new book. We are reading the very first chapter of our brand new read aloud book. We're done with Mr. Lemoncello. Now is dun 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 dun. The Lemonade War. So this is the one that you all voted for. Majority rules is the Lemonade War. Do not worry though, we will have another read aloud vote very shortly. You'll see some of those repeated ones that didn't get chosen in our next read aloud vote. But this time we are going to read The Lemonade War by Jacqueline Davies. And you already read the blurb if you did the read aloud vote. So we're going to jump right into it today and read our very first chapter. And this book is really great. What I love about it, first of all, is that it is part of a series. It's part of the Lemonade War series. And if you like this book, there are 2 more in the series that you can read and continue on reading about. Right, The Lemonade War. Lots of pages. Okay, Chapter 1, Slump. Slump. A drop in the activity of a business or the economy. I gave a little definition there. Evan lay on his back in the dark, throwing the baseball up in a straight line and catching it in his bare hands. Thwop, thwop. The ball made a satisfying sound as it slapped his palm. His legs flopped in a V. His arms stretched up to the ceiling, and the thought that if he missed, he'd probably break his nose made the game just as interesting enough to keep going. On the floor above, he heard footsteps, his mother's, and then a long, loud, scraping, groaning sound. He stopped throwing the ball to listen. His mother was dragging something heavy across the kitchen floor, probably the broken air conditioner. A week ago, right at the beginning of the heat wave, the air conditioner in his mother's attic office had broken. The man from Sears had installed a brand new one, but left the old one sitting right in the middle of the kitchen floor. The Truskys had been walking all around it all week. Scrape! Evan stood up. His mom was strong, but this was a 2-person job. Hopefully she wouldn't ask him why he was hiding in the dark basement, and hopefully Jessie wouldn't be in the kitchen at all. He'd been avoiding her for 2 days now, and it was just getting harder by the minute. The house wasn't that big. Evan had his hand on the railing when the scraping noise stopped. He heard footsteps fading to silence. She'd given up. Probably the heat, he thought. It was that kind of weather, giving up kind of weather. He went back to laying on the floor. Thwop, thwop. Then he heard the basement door open. Pshh. Evan caught the ball and froze. Evan, Jessie's voice sounded echoey in the darkness. Evan, you down there? Evan held his breath. He lay completely still. Looks like Remy wants to join us in the read aloud today. Nice, he's a reader as well. Avid reader at that. Evan held his breath. He lay completely still. The only thing that moved was the pins and needles prickling in his fingers. He heard the door start to close. Long breath out. But then it stopped and opened again. Footsteps on the carpeted stairs. A black outline of Jessie standing at the bottom of the steps with daylight squirting all around her. Evan didn't move a muscle. Evan? Is that you? Jessie took one short step into the basement. Is that? She inched away toward him and then kicked him with her bare foot. Hey, watch it, would ya? Said Evan, swatting her leg. He suddenly felt stupid for laying there in the dark. Right. I thought you were a sleeping bag, she said. I couldn't see. What are you doing down here? How come all the lights are off? It's too hot with the lights on, he said. He talked in a flat voice, trying to sound like the most boring person in the whole planet. If he kept it up, Jessie might leave him alone. Mom's back in her office, said Jessie, lying down on the couch. Working, she groaned as she said the word. Evan didn't say anything. He went back to throwing the ball. Straight up, straight down. Maybe the silence would get to Jessie and she would leave. He was starting to feel words piling up inside of him, crowding his lungs, forcing out all the air. It was like having a chest full of bats, beating their wings and fighting to get out. Jessie tried to move the air conditioner, but it's too heavy. She tried to move the air conditioner, but it's too heavy, said Jessie. Evan tightened up his lips. Go away, he thought. Go away before I say something mean. It's gonna be hot All week, Jessie continued. It's in the 90s, all the way up till Labor Day. Thwop, thwop. So, what do you want to do? Jessie asked. Scream, thought Evan. Jessie never got it when you were giving her the big freeze, so like the silent treatment. She just went right on acting as if everything was great. It made it really hard to tell her to bug off without telling her to bug off. Whatever Evan did that, he felt bad though. So, what do you want to do? Jessie asked again, nudging him with her foot. It was a direct question. Evan had to answer it, or explain why he wouldn't, and he couldn't get into that. It was too complicated, too hurtful. So right now, as a reader, we don't quite know why Evan and Jessie are having some sort of altercation, but hopefully we find out soon. It's a little bit of mystery, suspense for us as a reader, and we know that the author is hoping us that maybe we figure it out before he blatantly tells us what's happening. So make sure you're paying attention and trying to guess maybe why Evan and Jessie aren't getting along. So what do you want to do? She asked for the third time. I'm doing it, said Evan. Nah, come on, for real, what do you want to do? For real, he said. We could ride our bikes, maybe to the 7-Eleven, she said. No money, he said. You just got $10 from Grandma for your birthday. Spend it, said Evan. On what? Stuff. Or spent it, said Evan. Well, I've got, Jessie's voice dribbled down to nothing. Evan stopped throwing the ball and looked at her. What? Jessie pulled her legs tight to her chest. Nothing, she said. Right, said Evan. And he knew that Jessie had money. Jessie had always had money. She squirreled away in her lunchbox for a rainy day. But that didn't mean she was going to share it. Evan went back to throwing the baseball. He felt a tiny flame of anger shoot up and lick his face. Thwop, thwop. We could build forts in the woods, said Jessie. Too hot. We could play Stratejo. Too boring. We could build a track and race marbles. Too stupid. A thin spider web of sweat draped itself over his forehead, spreading into his hair. With every throw, he told himself, it's not her fault. With every throw, he told himself, it's not her fault. But he could feel his anger growing. He started popping his elbow to put a little more juice into the ball. It was flying a good 4 feet into the air every time. Straight up, straight down. Pop, thwop, pop, thwop. Pop, thwop. The bats in his chest were going nuts. What is the matter with you, said Jessie. You've been so weird the last couple of days. Oh man, here they come. I just don't want to play a dumb game like that Stratejo game, he said. You like Stratejo. I only picked that because it's your favorite game. I was being nice in case you hadn't noticed. Look, there are only 6 days left of summer, and I'm not going to waste it playing a dumb game. Evan felt his heartbeat speed up. Part of him wanted to stuff a sock in his mouth, and part of him wanted to tell his sister all the stuff he was thinking. It's a stupid game, and it's for babies, and I don't want to play a stupid baby game. Pop, thwop, pop, thwop. Why are you being so mean? Evan knew why he was being so mean, and he hated being mean, especially to her. But he couldn't help it. He was so angry and so humiliated and so full of bats. There was nothing else he could be, except alone, and she'd taken even that away from him. You're the genius, he said. You figure it out. Good. That would make her be quiet for once. Evan watched the ball fly up in the air. Is this because of that letter? Jessie asked. Crack. Evan had taken his eyes off the ball for 1 second, just 1 second, and the ball came crushing down on his nose. Ow, he said. He curled over onto his side, grabbing his nose with both hands. There was a blinding, booming pain right behind his eyes that was so quickly spreading to the outer edges of his skull. Do you want some ice? He heard Jessie ask in a calm voice. What do you think? He shouted. Yeah? She stood up. No, I don't want a stupid piece of ice. The pain was starting to go away, like a humongous wave that crashed with lots of noise and spray, but then slowly fizzles away into nothing. Evan rolled to a sitting position and took his hands away from his nose. With his thumb and index finger, he started to pinch the bridge of his nose. It was still in a straight line. Or was it still in a straight line? Jessie peered at his face in the dim light. You're not bleeding, she said. Yeah, well, it hurts, he said, a lot. It's not broken, she said. You don't know that, he said. You don't know everything. You think you do, but you don't, or you don't. It's not even swollen. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Evan held his nose with one hand and bumped his sister's knee with the other one. Then he picked up the baseball and struggled to his feet. Leave me alone. I came down here to get away from you, and you just had to follow. You ruined everything. You ruined my summer, and now you're going to ruin school. When he got to the bottom of the steps, he threw the baseball down in disgust. Thud. So we just finished chapter 1 of the Lemonade War. Right now, we don't know really who. I can assume as a reader, Jesse and Evan are siblings. I don't know yet how old they are. I know right now it's summer vacation and they're at home, and for some reason they're upset with each other. So us as readers don't quite know yet how or why they're upset with each other, but as a response today for today's read aloud, I would like you to complete the Google form that's also found in the Read Aloud tab, and I want you to give me a prediction or a guess. Why do you think Evan is mad at Jesse? And you can use some information that we know from the book, although it's a little bit of information, we can still use it. But make a guess on why you think Evan is mad at Jesse. What do you think happened? What was the altercation that caused them to get so angry at each other? Okay, so that is our read aloud assignment for today, and join me tomorrow for chapter 2.